It's a cold one here, but compared to a lot of the country, we are grateful to have clear, sunny skies this morning. Our solar power is kicking. My hands are still scraped. I got in a fight with a kitten and lost yesterday. I don't want to tell that story. But we have a big, just a lot of headlines to catch up on today. Big pile of news to jump into, and an awesome guest today with Professor Walter Block. We're going to be getting his take, of course, on COVIDiocy and crypto. This is professor, economist, and libertarian voluntarist guru, Professor Walter Block. So very much looking forward to having him on. I don't think I hate to go back to what we were doing on Monday, or was it Tuesday? But we're not. I don't think we've got enough troll comments on my puppy. My wife is in California again, and I am watching our puppy Marilyn, and she is whining, and I don't want to let her out because she's going to need me to let her back in before the show is over. But I think she wants to get out more than she wants to come back in right now. So CJ, top troll comment today is going to win membership in the Adam versus the Man Producers Club. You want to tell people what that means and what they... Yes, Marilyn, I hear you. She doesn't whine like that normally. This is weird. Tell them what they might win, CJ.
Good morning, Adam. Other than a lifetime of eternity and regret, you will win access into our Producers Club, which is our private Telegram chat. It's filled with great people who love to share content, share networking, and we have a good time. We really do. It's 24/7 chat available, unless of course we're all sleeping, or if you're awake at 3 in the morning and you just want to dump links for Adam to check out, go for it, right?
Yes.
We try to limit it to 3, but let's face it, nobody really follows that one. So, but if you don't want to get access into the private Telegram chat, there is a public Telegram chat at t.me/Adam versus the Man. And you can go over to our website, which is adamversustheman.com. From there, you can click our Patreon link, patreon.com/Adam versus the Man, where $1, $5, $10, or $50 a month can help support this broadcast. $10 is where it's at. If you don't want to win access into the Producers Club, you can always pay for access with just a couple cups of coffee a month. If you were like addicted to Starbucks and wanted to get rid of 2 of your trips, which I know is a lot to ask for some of you, you can give that to us, and we will be grateful for it. So from there, we want to thank those that help support us by giving them a deal at the AdamVersusTheMan.com store, where our Producers Club members and better patrons get 15% off and free shipping. We got lots of great items: towels, backpacks, fanny packs, beanies, hats, sweatshirts, coffee mugs. You can click the load more button and see we even go more crazy: laptops, sleeves, bucket hats, and yes, we even have a bean bag that looks like things that I won't describe for the audio reasons. And yeah, it's just a great way to help support the show. If you want to get something from our store, take a picture of it, send it over to Adam. I'm sure he'd be willing to put it out on his Twitter. For as shadow banned and censored as he is, I'd still do that just for anybody that helps support the broadcast like that. And then, of course, we've got our affiliate, Cigar Federation. Cigar Federation has a ton of great cigars to choose from, exotic flavors. Adam's being his favorite being the JSK Nugs. You can use promo code Adam10, and I keep doing this, Adam. We got to go like this. That's what's fun. It's promo code Adam10. That's ADAM10. Again, get you 10% off your order, and you can enjoy a good cigar. From there, we would like to direct you to the Garden of Freedom on Instagram, where you can check out some pretty awesome pictures of gardenia and see what's going on. And this will especially be ramping up when we get to the Gardenia Sovereignty Project, as Adam is going to be declaring himself his own micronation. So Instagram will be where you can either watch the feds come in and declare war on this tiny little nation, or you'll watch the birth of a new nation. So either way.
Well, CJ, speaking of micronations, I didn't know that we were getting censored on YouTube for talking about nut sacks. Is that a problem now?
I don't want to trigger YouTube. You never know these days with cancel culture. I mean, I'm sure I've already triggered the censors already. So I guess
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's just a weird thing to notice about the evolution of censorship. right? Think about like what was censored when we think of like censorship of early media, TV and radio. It's
You've been broadcasting every Monday through Friday for the last year, and minus the like 1 week, and here Edward saying you've been MIA. That's what shadow banning is. That's the example there.
So that's my point. Is like it's censorship always comes with some element of diversion, right? And you think back to like the radio of the 40s and 50s and the censorship of sex and Lenny Bruce coming out and saying if you can't say fuck, you can't say fuck the government. And even before that, there was a sort of blanket of cultural censorship of sex or religious dissent, anything like that. But that was hiding the censorship of political messages that challenged the authority that was behind that censorship, right? Or in religion, things that challenge the authority of the church. Man, that's a lot of comments. But where we're at now, like we've kind of laid bare the political, the controlling, the exploitation nature of censorship by kind of having narrowed it down to the political, to that kind of challenging message that might not be controversial, but challenges the establishment. Because this is a beautiful shift in human culture, that we've gotten a little bit more real about sex and bad words, to the point where, yeah, okay, keep it away from kids and maybe put safety labels and disclaimers on it, but we're in the age of the internet now. It's going to be out there for anybody who wants to find it. There's not much point in censoring it. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. So speaking of this, I wanted to address Rob B real quick. He says, triggered censors, yet you censored me and put me in timeout yesterday for speaking my opinion about the guest. And to Rob, I just say simply, one, I'm not comment Jim Freedom, okay? And when I see stupid in the comments, I acknowledge those stupid people by putting you in a little timeout. And I didn't censor you. I just put you in a timeout. But hey, real quick.
Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
All right. Now I'm ready to jump into some news.
But no, real quick though, Adam, I'm saying, like, I still got that in my ears. But to these people that are making it a less enjoyable experience in the comments, when I click over and I see that you're just being stupid in the comments, I'm just going to put you in timeout. I didn't block you. I knew you can come back 5 minutes later. But, if you're going to just make it a bad experience for people, just don't watch. I think it's fair to say that, we treat people with kindness, courtesy, dignity, and respect we're shown. And if that's not Rob's character, then I don't mind putting the guy in a timeout. I mean, like I said, I won't block you. But I mean, just when you're making it an unenjoyable experience in the chat comments for other viewers, and it's an actively noticeable negative experience, I'm gonna just say, hey, take a time out there, jackass, because you know as well as I do that we do open line Fridays. We have call-ins. You can join our public chat. And to just say these things is so ignorant and disrespectful to the guests that you have on that I think that it's not censorship. It's just saying, hey, you're a fucking idiot, in my opinion. And if I'm in charge of comments, I'm going to treat you the way you treat others. So,
well, CJ, with the word censorship, even, it's a deliberately multi-used term, and it's I think there's an element of deliberate obfuscation by the censors in the use of the word censor or censorship itself, because that's censorship, that's not censorship. Well, this is moderating my platform, this is and it's like, well, you have to point out there are two definitions. There's the inclusive one, that's anything. Yes, we censor your comments on this channel if you're being such a big butthead that you're making the experience less enjoyable for everyone. That doesn't mean trolls not welcome, by the way. But if you're just spamming or being obnoxious or derailing the conversation, yeah, we are moderating this conversation. We are going to censor the fuck out of you. Yeah, someone quote me on that, right? But then that's sort of legitimate censorship where you have you have an like if you come into my house and I say you can stay in my house, but you shall not mention he who shall not be named. That's just a direct Harry Potter reference this time. I'm just talking about Voldemort. I don't want you to say Voldemort. In the office, in the studio, it's okay. We can have those conversations. But in my house, he remains he who shall not be named. But then there's the other category of censorship that we think of as government censorship. That is coercive, evil suppression of a message that you have a right to share either in a public space with your own property or on your own property with your own property. And by I mean your voice, your body, your t-shirts, your signs, whatever it is, your media productions online. You have a right to do that. And when government interferes with that, we can call it government censorship or coercive censorship, but it's obviously a different definition. And then there's the gray area where you have a corporation that is profiteering from government policy, if not sponsored by directly and cooperating and working with government, as so many of the tech giants are now with literally Department of Defense contracts. I know Google's got with them. Someone on their board is on DARPA's whatever muckety schmuck committee. And then you have Facebook doing political ads. There's obviously direct connection there, or I guess one level removed, indirect connection. Trying to think of other examples, but at very least, we know all these companies profit from our tax dollars in corporate policy, in tax policy, in benefits and ways that they have economic advantages that we don't. So when they censor, it's really like it's a hybrid of those two things. And there is an element of unjustified evil in that censorship that needs to be called out. But it's not us moderating your dumb comments on this channel.
Again, I mean, like I said, we have a 5-person panel we've put together with Marcus. It takes his time to get the guests, to line it all up, just to get that many people on the same channel at one time. And then to just have somebody be so blatantly disrespectful. How can you say that that your guests don't love freedom? Again, this is not what he was saying. He's misrepresenting it.
So CJ, I think so. This comment itself, like you said, the guest star, I would actually welcome comments like that.
No. We welcome them.
Intellectual criticism, funny criticism, trolling. Right, that's all welcoming. But this was repetitive and spammy yesterday.
This one was just blatantly you could go into the comment feed and just see spam after spam of words. And so take a time out, man. Take 5 fucking minutes to realize that this platform isn't about you. But like Craig said, call in on Friday. It's about Adam. Yes, call in on Friday and tell it to Adam directly. Don't just sit there like a loser in the comments. Participate. But again, yeah, anyways. So Brian wants to know what Adam is trying to say is if you draw or distract the visitors and change the narrative of the show, you may excuse yourself or be helped. Yeah, that's the point. Like, if you're not enjoying the content, don't just sit there and be a troll, because we as adults can see that. Like, we see you, Rob. Hi, but again, at the end of the day, take a chill pill, dude, because if, again, what are you going to think we're going to do? We're going to go, oh, let's just make sure that this guy ruins our guest experience. I mean, they're all talking about how they want to be free from the federal government. They're talking literally to Adam, who he has joined their Congress, their Cal Congress, and you're bad mouthing essentially his peers.
Yeah, there's a different element you raised there, CJ, of we want to maintain. I mean, we generally expect our guests to have the same thickness of skin, but we also have a different motive of just making sure it's a pleasant experience for them overall. Right. And again, I'm more concerned with repetitiveness than content. If every comment that you troll is obnoxious but it's original, we'll probably let it slide.
It's repetitive and not accurate. I'm not going to put something on the screen that's going to belittle somebody or just cause that unnecessary drama. But I thought Rob was being a douche, and I'm not commenting Jim Freedom, and I play by a different set of rules. So when Jim's not here, you might want to be a little more respectful to the guests. You might want to be a little more respectful to the host. And yeah, no, I'll put the trolling comments up, no problem. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit there and entertain it past what we're doing right now.
With that being said, remember today's contest is best troll comment.
Right. With that being said, keep it classy, fuckers. You don't have to sit here and say shit that's just so damn untrue that it can't be challenged without pointing out your stupidity. I don't want to have to come live the next day and defend me putting you in a timeout like my toddler because you're acting like a moron in our comments. I mean, I'm just saying. What makes you think that we're going to put your comment up if you're not developing that relationship that lets us know, like, hey, you are actively adding to, not taking from the experience of others or our guests? So, are we going to get these guests back if they know that Rob's just going to be this giant fucking douchebag in the comments every time they come on? So, yeah. But, Jim, are you back there? You ready to go?
Oh, Jim is back. All right.
Is.
Just in time.
One step off the left, Robs. Don't piss me off, Rob.
Don't piss him off, Robs. By the way, he's not mad. Rob's not mad. Rob B is not mad.
Well, before CJ goes, he gave me a correction from yesterday's show because I saw this. It's a quote and it's got this odd. Can you just put the actual picture that I sent you up on screen now?
Yeah.
The one that I wanted originally, because it's got this Captain America in the dramatic pose and this really righteous quote, and it's dash Captain America at the bottom, and that's actually referring to the movie, not even the character. And I think I presented as the character, and CJ corrected me to say that they actually watched you. Was it because of this quote you were like, oh, let's watch Captain America?
No. So I've been on this watching Marvel from phase 1 through phase 3 and preparing for phase 4. And last night we just so happened to be on Captain America Civil War, and it's the start of phase 3. And it's the scene where Peggy Carter, Captain America's love from from boot camp days, after he became Captain America, they're at her funeral, and the niece of Peggy Carter is speaking and quotes that this is a Peggy Carter quote, and Cap listens to this quote, and that's like his inspiration to not sign the Sokovia Accords. And it was funny that you quoted this movie at the end of the show, and then that night, without me knowing it, I'm watching the movie, and I was like, wait a minute, this wasn't Captain America. So
that is a crazy coincidence.
Yeah.
That is like, one in a million that it can't be that small of odds, but pretty fucking close to that. Because I don't even remember, like, I saw this quote randomly on social media. Something occurred to me to connect it to the show yesterday. I pulled it up while Paco was doing his closing and was like, all right, yeah. And then I sent it to you. And I guess I've never seen the movie. I've not seen a lot of movies. I am a fan of superhero movies, though. I was a comic book geek growing up. All right, with that being said, correction issued. Jim, anything before we get to this big pile of news today? I got my coffee finally warming us up here.
Oh, I can see the steam off of it.
Is it cold in Phoenix?
It's chilly for Phoenix, 60 or something. I don't know. That's not chilly to people like you up north there.
All right. Well, then let's jump into it here. We got a big pile of news. Keep the comments coming. And Jim,
before we do that, before you jump into real quick, I just want to remind people that if they participate in the contest, they can win access into that private producers club, which is opposed to the public producers club, sort of, that's down there. T.me.
You already did. I will say that I forgot to mention that the public producer, or the public channel on Telegram, is the only place that you can get the links with the show every day. And it's a really cool news digest that me and with the editorial team that is the Producers Club put together every day. All right, so jumping into it, we're going to see if we can get through a big pile before we get Walter Block on here in about 40 minutes. Daily Beast Atlantic City bids good riddance to Trump by blowing up his old casino. Atlantic City Mayor Marty Small Sr. said ahead of the demolition that Trump had stiffed a lot of people over the years, so he was glad to see the building go. Atlantic City just got a little less Trumpy. On Wednesday morning, the old Trump Plaza building in the heart of the Jersey Shore destination, once the jewel of Trump's casino empire, got blown to bits. Now, I don't mean to, okay, so apparently this is a casino opened in 1984, closed in 2014. Has since, that's in the last 7 years, fallen into such a terrible state that chunks have been breaking off of it into the ground below. So it sounds like the demolition was justified. Although I hate to see the waste of a good building and the architecture. You can watch the video. Oh, there it is. Wow, there's the cloud. Bye-bye. All right. Speaking of which, though, a little counter story to this. Breitbart has this headline poll. Donald Trump favorability plus 75 among Republicans. Mitch McConnell underwater at minus 15. Yeah. Trump was plus 75 in the YouGov/Economist poll taken February 6 to 9, which found his favorability rating was 87% among GOP members, while just 12% viewed the 45th president unfavorably, hence plus 75. Trump's Vice President Mike Pence also remained popular, 78% favorable, 16 unfavorable, plus 62 rating for Pence. Probably some negatives there around what happened with challenging the election results and the false flag insurrection. But Mitch McConnell, only 36% said they viewed him favorably, 51 not. And yet somehow he manages to keep getting reelected and reelected. Incumbents advantage in Kentucky, right? Very important that Rand Paul presents a counterpoint to that, at least. But somehow, despite Mitch McConnell being, I don't know, one of the biggest swamp monsters out there, the people of Kentucky who managed to elect Rand Paul also somehow managed to keep re-electing Mitch McConnell. Really makes you wonder. Bigger point of the story, that Donald Trump still has huge pull within the base of the Republican Party. Speaking of egotistical loudmouths with radio shows, formerly at least, the Palm Beach Post, Rush Limbaugh, conservative radio titan, dies of lung cancer at age 70. And I got to say, to all the liberals dancing on his grave, shut the fuck up. Like, really? I don't know. Keep talking. Keep revealing how embarrassing it is to be an emotionally driven, petulant child and to define your politics through that. Rush Limbaugh, and I'm obviously not defending any of his politics. He's a conservative. He's a statist. He's a militarist. He's a Republican. I am none of those things. I am a libertarian. I'm a voluntarist, localist, and as anti-militarism as it gets. But my start in media really was, well, after online. My start in any semblance of professional or regular media production was with radio. AM 1550 KIVA, more positive talk radio Albuquerque, and I loved it. And everybody in the world, certainly in American political anything, who gets into radio is like, hey, by the way, look who's at the top of the mountain. Look who the biggest dog in the game is by far. And Rush Limbaugh is just consistency, getting out there and being engaging. And I actually did, even though I believe it or not, I enjoy listening to people I disagree with, and Rush Limbaugh was one of them. And when I was running for Congress way back in the day, I would listen to Rush Limbaugh as a way of knowing what a chunk of my constituents were thinking or talking about. But I think he's certainly as a pundit, as a public figure, deserving of ridicule. But he's a talker. He is someone who is incredibly professionally accomplished. He's not in another. You can make the case from an ethical perspective, even as a libertarian, that he's advocating for unethical things. He is a cheerleader was a cheerleader for the violence of the state. But that is not deserving of the disrespect or intellectually dishonest scorn that this man is being subject to posthumously at the moment. Rush Limbaugh, the talk titan who made right-wing radio financially viable in American media and himself a Republican kingmaker years before Fox News, died Wednesday after he revealed in 2020 that his lung cancer was terminal. He was 70. His death was confirmed by his wife, Catherine, at the beginning of Limbaugh's radio show, from which he's been absent for almost 2 weeks. A longtime cigar smoker who stocked the humidors in his homes and studios with the finest, of course. Limbaugh succumbed to cancer after battling drug addiction and loss of hearing earlier in his career. He was deaf by the end and broadcast his daily show in spite of it. There's a certain, like, I can see, that it's not, it's not a major feat of human accomplishment that, oh my gosh, a deaf man did a radio show, but that he had that persistence and that commitment to his principles. I do believe, despite all of the horrific things I could say about his principles being violent and statist and controlling, and essentially, as a defender of mainstream conservatism, I'll even go far enough to say that Rush Limbaugh still is in the category of communist by the American status quo. All right, maybe socialist, a slightly softer, more inclusive term, would be appropriate for someone who advocated for the continuing socialization of the military, security forces, and all the other apparatuses of the state that he believed in. But he was clearly someone to admire, and to respect, at least as an influencer, but also a voice for what a lot of Americans believed in, who were not represented by the liberal side of the mainstream media, because a lot of this was based on Rush's popularity, rural audiences, because conservatives, they live in rural areas and they work real jobs that require commuting and driving around, and so they listen to Rush Limbaugh on the radio. And there's a lot of truth to that. So rest in peace, Rush. You will be missed, and you will be replaced. And we have a tech block here. Interesting news with what's going on with the news and social media. Excuse me, refreshing my screen here. The Associated Press has this headline: Facebook blocks Australians from accessing news on platform. Yeah, I got to explain this one, right? Facebook announced Thursday it has blocked Australians from viewing and sharing news on the platform because of proposed laws in the country to make digital giants pay for journalism. Australian publishers can continue to publish news content on Facebook, but links and posts can't be viewed or shared by Australian audiences, the US-based company said in a statement. First of all, it's very interesting that they're capable of such micro-targeted disabling of Facebook's features. I mean, this isn't news, but seeing it enacted like this, hey, if you're from a news site, we can separate, are you a news site or not? If you're in Australia with Facebook, we can geotag you, whatever, locate you, by whatever say we use. Your residence is in Australia, you're currently in Australia, whatever we feel like. We can disable you sharing links to those news sites. That's a cool capability. To see it used like this or manipulated this way is kind of scary. Now, I feel like I have to give the analysis of the bigger issue here, which is really simple when it boils down to freedom of speech, freedom of information, freedom of sharing. The problem with Facebook is not that they're not paying news for their content or they're profiting from it, but that some people are. There's an imbalance. Anytime you have the government interfere with the free flow of information in order to profit some of their sponsors, it's going to be at the expense of somebody else, right? That's kind of how it works. And so when they come in and say, well, Facebook has these corporate privileges and news companies have these corporate privileges, you as an individual don't. I mean, if you went and said, well, I want my blog to not be shareable on Facebook without me getting a cut. The problem with this is that as we are coming to a point of expectations of capabilities of the internet, the attempts to sequester information, to censor like this, do backfire. And yes, in the broader sense, requiring payment for information to prevent you from sharing it without paying, or to enforce that, is a form of censorship. And this is a weird thing that you really do have to understand intellectual property as a government racket in order to appreciate. And so, yeah, if I write something and you see it and you copy it, I don't have a right to put a gun to your head and demand money compensation for my property, because it's not my property, it's your property. You can't own ideas. And so there's a bigger story to this, with what's going on with the manipulation between Facebook and the government of Australia and the other news entities involved, and Facebook making this play. But I'm going to celebrate this because I see this as a sort of destabilization that gets us closer to an open internet. Now, newscorp.com has this headline: News Corp and Google agree to global partnership on news. That's right. News Corp announced today that it has agreed to a historic multi-year partnership with Google to provide trusted journalism from its news sites around the world in return for significant payments by Google. So now Google is going to have an official news outlet with News Corp. And by the way, the News Corp publication joining Google News Showcase will be the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Market Watch, New York Post in the UK, the Times and the Sunday Times, and the Sun in Australia, a range of news platforms, including the Australian news.com.au, Sky News, and multiple metropolitan and local titles. So, of course, surprise, surprise, there's a corporate consolidation of power effect here, but also an angle of consolidating news production in the conversation. And I think it's only going to be a short stretch before a show like this might not be possible, because I'm reading the news, I'm commenting on the news. I might have to pay everybody who writes everything that I read or comment on for their content, which is absurd on its face. I mean, you think if someone writes an op-ed, I can't do a response op-ed and quote them here. I can't do news analysis quoting the news. Well, that might be the case if that might be the sort of legal reality if this push for forcing and is forcing news corporation, or forcing social media platforms to pay corporations who are making news for their content. What you're going to have is a very distortionary effect on the market for information and news altogether. Now, Australian law, this headline next article from The Independent: Australian law could make the internet unworkable, says World Wide Web inventor Tim Berners-Lee. And that's sort of what I'm getting at here, is getting to that point of unworkability. Like, at what point is it no longer, is the internet just not practical because of these mechanisms of control and censorship coming to actually dominate how people get information? So Tim Berners-Lee, internet pioneer Tim Berners-Lee, has said Australia's plan to make tech giants pay for journalism could render the internet as we know it unworkable. The inventor of the World Wide Web claimed that proposed laws could disrupt the established order of the internet. Specifically, I am concerned that the code risks breaching a fundamental principle of the web by requiring payment for linking between certain content online. And yeah, so it's not even like, it'd be one thing if, and even by intellectual property, if you accept those standards, it's one thing to say, if you're copying my content and putting ads on it, please give me a cut of it, versus you're linking to my content, you're sending people to my content, and you're attaching a link to the page where you are sending people to my content from, so pay me for that. And you go, when does it, where does it end? Where is the objective standard? And when we see this with intellectual property, there isn't one. And the answer is to go to a principled position of respect for the freedom of information, freedom of property rights, and a condemnation of anything that is a government interfering coercively with the free flow of information between consensual individuals. But that being said, that's why I can look at this and go, the internet is just, the reality of this technology being implemented is killing the intellectual property racket. And I'll go back and celebrate Napster and then LimeWire and BitTorrent and yeah, now uTorrent. Yeah, this is no, they can't. I mean, they can only limit things for so long. There's always a workaround. There's always a leapfrogging technology, and now we can kind of code our way out of anything on the internet. If Facebook makes itself unviable by not being a free platform for sharing news, not that it has been for a long time anyway, but if it really gets to the point where it can't even pretend to be that, and it's only got the Facebook News showcase, well, there's going to be an even clearer bifurcation of the media into that which serves the authorities and that which challenges the authorities. All right. Fun, quick story from the Oregonian. Portland police officers guarding Fred Meyer dumpsters as residents seek discarded food. Now, when it comes to dumpster diving or material salvage, as a homesteader, I'm all for it. When it comes to not letting things go to waste, duh, of course not. I say that without endorsement of any particular practice of salvage or dumpster diving, as the case may be. But when you look at the wastefulness of modern American consumerist society, and I'm not here pretending to be some guru saying that I've got all the answers and we need to, to shun materialism, but I can at least say with certainty, to the extent that we are materialistic, let's not be fucking stupid and wasteful about it. Holy shit. So anyway, I got to get into the story here. Roughly a dozen Portland police officers faced off with a small group at Northeast Portland Fred Meyer on Tuesday after people tried to take food that had been thrown away. Workers at the Hollywood West Fred Meyer threw away thousands of perishable items because the store, like many others, had lost power in an outage brought on by the region's winter storm. Images on social media showed mountains of packaged meat, cheese, and juice, as well as whole turkeys and racks of ribs that had been tossed into two large dumpsters near the store. Now, there's a whole other level of idiocy around this. And I know people who do regular grocery store dumpster diving because anything that has packaging damaged or that has been dinged sufficiently has to be thrown out. So lots of perfectly good food and even packaged items where I've seen cases of water bottles tossed out because the plastic wrapping holding them together was damaged. Yeah, you can't sell it. And they can't let employees take that stuff because that would incentivize employees to damage it themselves and then go, oh, well, I guess I got to take it home. But when it goes into the dumpster, then the store has said this is now refuse. We are refusing this. We are denying our ownership of this. Now, in this case, there's so much worse idiocy at play here because they're saying food went bad because it was too cold. And I get it. Yeah, it means that their refrigeration units failed because of the power outages in Texas. They can't just put all their food outside in the snow and then bring it back in and sell it. But this gets to the liability aspect of a lot of this that prevents more reasonable dealing with waste products. And this is, for me, it's not just food. I mean, everything, repurposing discarded electronics, construction materials at build sites. I mean, how cool would it be? And of course, they would never let this for a lot of corrupt reasons, but how cool would it be if every time, a strip mall went in, all the leftover construction material could be claimed by the community for home repairs or to build someone a house or for homesteaders in the area to just even take a little bit of it back and be able to put it to good use instead of it going to the dump or a landfill or even having to be reprocessed in a less energy efficient way than simply going straight to being reused. So in this case, though, what we have here is a failure of people relying on centralized systems like the power grid in Texas as opposed to being, self-sufficient. Sometimes with stores like this, they have generators for backup because they know that they can't depend on that system. But instead, the government changes the incentives and makes it more likely that people are going to lean on the system that will then not have the safety mechanisms in place, whether it's at the system-wide level or at the community or even individual home type level that would mitigate such a disaster. And then you have people starving when they can't go to the grocery store and get this food. I mean, this is a disaster on multiple levels. But then what happens? the police, the government agents jump in and make everything worse. But let's see how this actually unfolded, right? People seeking food from the dumpsters began to report police officers showing up to guard the dumpsters and prevent people from taking the items after a few people gathered in hopes of salvaging this food. Morgan McNiff, a prominent activist and outspoken Portland police critic who lives in the neighborhood, said employees were guarding the dumpsters when they showed up to get some of the discarded food. McNiff began to film the employees and reported staff members threatened to call the police on them for doing so. Wow. The store manager called police shortly thereafter, McNiff said. McNiff began live streaming the interaction on Instagram. As McNiff said, quote, after that, other people started showing up and asking them, why are you guys guarding a dumpster? McNiff said about 15 people eventually gathered in an attempt to collect food, and then a dozen officers arrived. One wasn't wearing a mask, refused to put one on until a supervisor arrived and brought him one. Oh my God, there's a COVID layer of clusterfuck to this too. On Wednesday, Portland police said officers were sent to the scene after employees said they felt the situation was escalating and feared there may be a physical confrontation. I mean, there are all of these people. Like, just think about the failure of all of the systems involved in the scene represented. I mean, there's a failure in the general social. By the way, I thought for a second this was Texas, but no, because it was failed power outage because of the same regional winter storm, or same, I guess, different regions, same winter surge of cold freak that we're experiencing right now. My toes are cold, like right now, even in the studio with my heater going full blast here in the mountains of Arizona. So in Portland, the systems involved here, just first of all, I mean, what you want to go chronologically through the chain of events, the dependence on the power grid, the failure of that, then the failure of the corporate structure of these grocery stores. I guess just this one example of Fred Meyer's, their inability to work around their legal and insurance and other incentive restrictions to just do the right thing with the food and like give it to a food bank. I mean, that would be the if just that part of the system was fixed, grocery stores would have a better direct connection to community food banks, where the food that they would throw out instead gets at least presented in a responsible way to the public who are in need for that food through food bank type systems. But then on top of that, there's something that prevents the store legally from just letting people into the dumpster because they have some, I don't know, somebody gets hurt in our dumpster, then we're going to get sued. Okay, well, then there's a whole other liability legal problem. Thank you, lawyers. And then cops. And instead of cops coming and going like, hey, your people, we're people, this is food. We need food to survive. And before it goes bad, why don't we just do the right thing with the food? No, instead, they enforce these other systems. This really is a tragedy of compounded failures, which is a perfect way of introducing our Corona blog. Yay! Let's hear the animation. Welcome to Adam versus the Rona. None of what you're about to hear will in any way constitute anything more than parody. Certainly not medical advice. Certainly nothing that would challenge or question the recommendations or decisions or anything ever said or done, or even smears on toilet paper ever created by those overlord geniuses at the World Health Organization and our local health authorities. So just to make that perfectly clear, Yahoo News has this from AFP. New COVID-19 cases down 16% last week, according to the World Health Organization. Well, what if I say it's worse? What if I say no? This is a conspiracy theory. It's like Cuomo denying things. No, it's yeah. But no, according to them, the number of new cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide fell by 16% last week to 2.7 million, the World Health Organization said. The number of new deaths reported also fell 10% week on week to 81,000, the World Health Organization said late Tuesday in its weekly epidemiological update using figures up to Sunday. Now, what does this actually mean? We question these numbers as much as anything else. I don't think they're actually as high as they're saying they still are. But I do want to point out a little silver lining that we kind of predicted is happening with this, that there is a kind of go through the population effect of all of this, where eventually they run out of bodies. Now, that being said, new variants, new who knows what, and if this, if this really is all, something engineered in a lab, why not have a new virus? Another fear-mongering headline, though, from the Associated Press: U.S. life expectancy drops a year in pandemic, most since World War II. Life expectancy in the United States dropped a staggering 1 year during the first half of 2020 as the coronavirus pandemic caused its first wave of deaths, health officials are reporting. Minorities suffered the biggest impact, with Black Americans losing nearly 3 years and Hispanics nearly 2 years, according to preliminary estimates Thursday from the CDC. This is a huge decline, said Robert Anderson, who oversees the numbers for the CDC. Quote, you have to go back to World War II, the 1940s, to find a decline like this. Now, there's an important, like right away, they got to point out, other health experts say it shows the profound impact of COVID-19, not just on deaths directly due to infection, but also from heart disease, cancer, and other conditions. Yeah, and if you take a population like the United States and then give us a forced unemployment crisis and a bailout crisis and a real estate crisis and an evictions crisis, and we're not able to take care of ourselves as well as we were before, well, no shit, life expectancy is going to go down. Of course, this is even calculating the COVID numbers into this. Who knows how accurate they may be. But, as we've said before, over time, we're going to see more and more stories that justify the basic concept that the cure is worse than the disease. Now, we have another headline here. I don't seem to be able to pull it up, but Andrew Cuomo's nursing home problem is getting worse. Yeah, so there was a major scandal in New York City. Oh, hey, so CJ's got it there, where Andrew Cuomo was apparently denying how bad some of the deaths were in nursing homes. And I think there's a kind of there's like enough like deliberate baiting like this, so that I mean, there are a couple things, there are a couple motivations for this, right? Every politician wants to cover up his own fuck ups, and Cuomo was at a lot. And within even if he was entirely honest and well intentioned in the course of responding to this massive event or non-event turned into a massive event, then there's going to be there are going to be mistakes. There are going to be big mistakes. There are going to be times when they cover up how bad it is. There are going to be times when they cover up or they make it look a lot worse. And that because their general narrative is to make things seem a lot worse than they are. Surprise, surprise. That's a big trend with government, right? Mm-hmm. Because their general trend is to make things seem worse, they can justify all of those exaggerations in the direction of making things worse if they get caught once really bad trying to make things look not as bad as they were. And I think whether that's intentional or not, the narrative with Cuomo and the nursing homes in New York is going to be used as leverage for that. People are going to look to that and be like, look, even Cuomo, who said it was so bad, he was covering up the nursing home scandal and people died, and the death numbers are actually higher than they're saying. All right, to the vaccine news now from ESPN of all places. Sources: many top NBA players hesitant to promote coronavirus vaccine. Many of the NBA's top players are expressing apprehension about accepting invitations to participate in league-sponsored public service announcements to bolster broader acceptance of the coronavirus vaccine, sources told ESPN. The NBA's outreach to the agents of many of the league's elite players with hopes of getting stars to participate in PSAs to promote the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine has been met with a tepid response. Player apprehension about receiving the vaccine are consistent with those that also exist in Black communities throughout the country, agents and players told ESPN. Now, what might be interesting with this is that a couple things with the vaccine. If they push it among professional athletes and they all get it, and like you have to have some version of the vaccine in order to play professional sports, then they're going to be able to look at this population and say, well, these are the healthiest among us, and they all did great. But if any of them have negative side effects, that would end the racket. The interesting thing here is to see the corporate overlap and how how professional athletes are used to serve corporate interests. And like, duh, hello, shoe sponsorships, fast food, just everything, all the commercialization, all the merchandising around professional sports. There are all sorts of, um, you know, crossovers with corporate interests where NBA stars aren't just athletes; they are corporate promoters. I mean, really, you think about what their effect is. They're corporate promoters who use their athletic showmanship to get attention for corporate narratives, whether it's just for commercials on TV, their sponsors, et cetera, et cetera. But now they're being called on to promote pharmaceutical company products in the name of public health. It's good to see that the story of the skepticism is getting out despite the dark cloud of Karen hanging over everything right now. By the way, I had a little bit of an experience with this personal COVID update here. Went to buy cannabis at a dispensary in Flagstaff yesterday. Went in, wore the mask, having a bandana up as I came through the door. Apparently, in Copenhagen County, we're supposed to wear masks standing outside the building, even when outside and 6 feet apart. Freaking insane. But then, as I got to the front of the line outside, and it's cold out. They got us standing outside and literally freezing temperatures in Flagstaff yesterday, and you're like, this is not in the interest of anybody's health. This is crazy. So we went in, and I let my mask just casually as I sat down, like go down to my chin, and got yelled at for it by this woman at the door, and I put it back on. And I just want to talk to her about it. And she said, I'm enforcing the local ordinance. I'm like, no, you're not. There are exceptions, and you have to respect them, or what you're doing is illegal and under color of law. And, I didn't get into all of that. I was a lot more polite. I actually, she asked me, I put my mask on. I was already in compliance. This is the thing, like, I'm already complying, and she wouldn't talk to me about it. So I'm not going to call out the dispensary on the air here, but I did leave them a nasty Google review. See if you can pull that up. You can figure out where I went. The weed is great, though. Everybody else was great. I don't want to condemn the business based on this one experience, because who knows? But this is something management is responsible for, and this is a big thing that we've seen. And in our block today, we don't have a lot of stories of great resistance and success there. But what I am seeing a lot of is that stores are putting up signs that essentially say masks are optional. They will cite the code or the lockdown orders, and the sign on their storefront will say, you are welcome to wear a mask in our store. If you come into our store not wearing a mask, we will assume that you have a health or religious exemption and respect your right to shop in this place or whatever. But the skepticism about the vaccine extends to the military as well. AP has this headline: thousands of service members saying no to COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah, by the thousands, U.S. service members are refusing or putting off the COVID-19 vaccine as frustrated commanders scramble to knock down internet rumors and find the right pitch that will persuade troops to get the shot. Yeah, there's this crazy rumor on the internet that you should let the government stick random under-tested vaccines in your body based on manipulated evidence. It's a crazy rumor. Yeah, it's just a rumor on the internet. Some Army units are seen as few as 1/3 agree to the vaccine. Military leaders searching for answers believe they have identified one potential convincer in imminent deployment. Navy sailors on ships heading out to sea last week, for example, were choosing to take the shot at rates exceeding 80 to 90%, probably because they were told they wouldn't be allowed to deploy if they didn't get it. Air Force Major General Jeff Taliaferro, Vice Director of Operations for the Joint Staff, told Congress on Wednesday that very early data suggests that just up to 2/3 of the service members offered the vaccine have accepted. Yeah, that's still higher than the rate for the general population, which a recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation put at roughly 50%. But the significant number of forces declining the vaccine is especially worrisome because troops often live, work, and fight closely together in environments where social distancing and wearing masks at times are difficult. Oh, it's just like the Spanish flu. I mean, so many comparisons, even the mask resistance and people realizing that masks were counterproductive back in the day. But now with service members refusing to take the vaccine as much as they're expected, even, or I should say, even with that, we still get to look at the federal workforce and as guinea pigs. Those who, and I don't say that with any joy. It's funny, but it's a sad situation. But whereas citizens or civilians, we don't have the same pressures. It's nice to see that even in the military, there is resistance at this widespread level. All right, a couple stories about the economic impacts before we wrap up our COVID block and get to our guest today. From Fox 5 New York, 9 out of 10 New York City restaurants could not afford rent in December, study finds. Yeah. A new report from the New York City Hospitality Alliance shows the extreme financial problems restaurants in New York City are facing, as 92% of the city's restaurants could not afford to pay their rent in December. The number has steadily worsened throughout the pandemic, from 80% of the restaurants in June 2020 not being able to pay rent. The New York City Hospitality Alliance's survey showed that only 40% of restaurants, bars, and nightlife establishments saw their landlords reduce their rent due to COVID-19. Only 36% deferred rent due to COVID, and only 14% have been able to successfully renegotiate leases. New York City recently returned to indoor dining at 25% capacity. Because if you COVID, see, the way COVID works is when you cough, the virus, it looks out into the room that you're in and it counts the chairs in the restaurant. And if your restaurant is over 25% capacity in New York City, the virus just goes out and infects everybody. So in New York, that's why they have to keep restaurant capacity below 25%. And the curfews in place as well for similar reasons. But business owners and industry leaders insist that a path to reopening at 50% occupancy is necessary for restaurants to stay afloat. Well, it really doesn't matter when things have gotten this bad. You have huge excuses for government intervention and enrichment of the super class and the profiteers at the expense of everybody else. And so our final headline, yes, in the Corona block. No, wait, we have one more. But of the economic part, President Biden to extend mortgage relief ban on home foreclosures through June. Now, if I was Walter Block, our guest coming up in a few minutes here, I could pick this apart mercilessly and all of the economic problems with this kind of intervention and explain all of the impacts. And I could if I took long enough and made some notes in advance. But we're going to come back to this with our guests and get into some of the economic implications of this. And we'll be asking Walter Block about the timing for how this stuff plays out around COVID. Because when we see, 90% of restaurants can't pay their rent in New York City, and that's been going up, that means they've been holding on this whole time. There are a lot of economic consequences that have yet to unfold as a result of these interventions. Finally, in our Corona block, Politico.com has this headline: doctors bring the fight to anti-vaxxers online. Healthcare workers are organizing online networks to promote COVID shots, strategically aiming to drown out vaccine opponents active on those sites. Yeah, it's like our guys are good, their guys are bad. Let's not put this as a counter-propaganda campaign or propaganda counter-propaganda campaign. This is doctors and nurses trying to build confidence in COVID-19 vaccines on social media, mounting coordinated campaigns to combat anti-vaccination forces prevalent on those platforms. Yeah, no. Never mind all the doctors and nurses who have called bullshit on this whole hoax of a pandemic. Not to say the virus isn't real, but certainly all the lies, bullshit, and manipulation around it, designed to help the super rich get richer at the expense of the rest of us through government intervention. Yeah, that's some bullshit. And that's our Corona block for the day. All right. Comment Jim Freedom. Any response to that, or what's the status with our guests? I don't see anything in the producers club, CJ.
Well, without sharing too much information, I got an email from Mr. Block. He says he got a COVID shot yesterday and feeling a bit under the weather. So he's asking if he can push off this interview until tomorrow.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh! Yeah. Tomorrow.
Coincidence? I mean, we're just
Yeah.
talking about COVID vaccines, and here our guest is experiencing an illness due to the shot.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I still have a couple news blocks. It's not a problem for the show today. Can you ask Walter if he would call in? Like, and I don't wanna if there's something, personal or medically sensitive, of course not. But if you can ask him, hey, do you want to come on for like 2 minutes and tell us, just
Yeah, according to the
tell us-
email, I'd say it's probably a no-go.
No, all right. Well, one more thing we have to talk about with Professor Block. I guess if we get him on tomorrow, hopefully it'll be tomorrow. And maybe we'll let people call in and speak with Professor Block through the show. But yeah, I was really glad with the pace of the first half of the show today. Overall, we got through our first couple blocks and grab bag, and then we got through our COVID block. But I'm still thinking, like, damn, we got a lot of news to get to today. We've got the econ block talking about Bitcoin and Doge and other crypto news, and we've got some international news, and some fun stories here as well. But Jim, I was so caught up in all of that fun news stuff. Some of those comments seemed like they were flashing on and off. Like you were trolling me by like just popping them up quick enough for the audience to read.
I noticed one time before you switched your screen, because I played a couple that I don't think you saw because your screen might have froze. And then once you switched your screen, one of them, I got up to take something away from Falcor that he was chewing, and when I came back, I accidentally hit the thing, and that one was a total accident. So I unselected it as quick as possible. I was like, oh, I don't know what I just put up there. Oh shit! But then I read it, and I think it was this one right here. Athletes maybe don't want to ruin their bodies. Ha ha. When
Yeah,
they were
no
talking
shit.
about
Here's another fucked up thing about that the whole athlete, come propagandist angle of the around the COVID vaccines. I bet a lot of them are going to get to opt out in private and lie about it.
Oh yeah. They're gonna start. They're eventually gonna say, "Well, it's just for a promo. You don't have to actually take it. Just tell people you take it." But how many of those athletes are gonna be willing to put on that big of a lie? Because you gotta know that nowadays somebody's gonna leak that. That's gonna be known in not too long. You know what I mean? That's not something you can do.
Not necessarily, because a lot of these, if you're a professional athlete who's making $1 million a year, you've got a personal doctor, you've got a personal trainer, you could make arrangements for there to be just your one personal guy who you've made arrangements with to protect your medical privacy. He's the only one there, she, in the room with you. And then you say, and they go, all right, it's time for your COVID shot. Do you really want it, or do you just want me to say that you got it, sir?
Yeah. No, surely. But you don't think that there would be one person out of the whole crowd that would try to leak that information? I was given the
blow
choice.
The whistle on that.
Yeah, blow the whistle on that as a practice. Exactly.
There's so much. I hate to say it, but let me point out one other thing, because this is the sort of like Adam versus the man, bigger picture kind of concept. The human experience is accelerating.
Yeah.
There are more of us than ever before. There's more news than ever before. There are more people with more complex institutions of manipulating information to tell you what's important and what isn't. And it is harder and harder to tell that. And if Adam versus the man has any chance of, being the next Rush Limbaugh kind of program, we have to be able to stand out. Like it's not like, so in Rush Limbaugh's era, and don't worry, I'll bring this back to the topic of athletes and vaccines. But in the Rush Limbaugh era, there was kind of a known common news narrative that wasn't that complicated, right? And you know what was going on for the most part of current events. If you listen to Rush Limbaugh's show, you at least, it's like we say with Adam versus the Man. You can, if you give me 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, you're not going to miss out on anything. Nothing's going to surprise you. We'll all the urgent headline news. We will bring you all the critical stuff you'll know eventually. All what I think, what our team does is our best job of assembling these bigger narratives and these blocks of what's important in current events. And it's impossible. Sometimes I feel so good at my job, like in putting together the editorial content of the show. Sometimes I feel helpless. Like just absolutely like there's no way. Like okay, like the strikes in India. We covered the farmer strikes in India. No, I have that pulled up. We're behind on that story. There's like 250 million people. It's striking. A farmer striking in India. And nobody in the mainstream American media is really talking about it. Trevor Noah did a segment on it. So the reason to bring it back to the story, like, would there be a whistleblower that athletes are secretly able to opt out of getting the vaccine? I don't know if I'd even cover it. I don't know if it'd even get to me. If it would even cross, like that might even, there's so many other, like you want to talk about blowing the whistle on COVID nonsense. Oh, those professional propagandists who are athletes have private doctors and were able to opt out. That's not news.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah.
Like, it's not like, and see, I think my detachment from professional sports allows me to see them and analyze them as cultural and social phenomena and economic forces, and not be caught up in, well, if it's an athlete doing it, it must be important. Or if it's a celebrity who said it, it must be worth reporting on. No. I mean, the most important thing I do in bringing in this process isn't finding stories, it's filtering out stories.
Right. Yeah. Well said. At least a couple people agree with Moose Girl that she believes that the shot killed Hank Aaron.
Oh, yeah. Those stories, I mean, they're starting to creep up more, and they are kind of semi-mainstream. Like there was a Detroit reporter, little bit older, I think she was, got the shot, died the next day. Of course, that's not a vaccine death, but if it was within 28 days of anything with the virus, it's a virus death.
Right. Langley Lang wants to know if you're okay. You haven't looked well, my friend. He says, I don't know if that's his attempt to troll or what.
I don't know. You want to talk about you want me to do a little navel gazing on the air here? My hair is a little messed up because I went to the gym last night. So yesterday I was running errands in Flagstaff, like I mentioned. Big deal, dude. And I'll say this publicly on the show because I know a lot of people who watch regularly already have my cell phone number, which is not quite public. But I went to Home Depot yesterday. Shout out to Scott at the Home Depot in Flagstaff for like teaching me how to do home electrical wiring and everything that I need to know practically for that. To use the wiring thing. If I sat at home and watched YouTube videos, I could figure it all out, but it would take me like 3 or 4 or 5 hours maybe to watch all the videos and figure out, wiring and all the electric parameters. And I do way more impractical research than necessary, and then put together a materials list or parts list and all that, and then go to Home Depot and still need help filling up my shopping cart. But I know that if it's one of the cool things about hardware stores today, the big box, Ace, Lowe's, Home Depot, you can go into one of those stores and go, who's your resident expert electrical guy on duty right now? And so, and I mean, I don't think it's getting lucky. I think most of the time you walk into one of those stores and say, can someone show me everything I need to run electric from my solar power system through a circuit breaker box all the way to appliances and outlets? And like, they'll do it. Like, yeah. And he took an hour with me, and now I'm like, I got all my parts, spent a few $100s, and I'm ready to go wire up this cabin. We got all the stuff we need when that's done for drywall and insulation, and for building a deck And if any of this is not totally boring to you, and you're in, you can drive out here this weekend. I'm hosting, I guess just a casual build party. You know, making an effort to invite people out if they want to come visit and help for any part of this weekend. I'm going to be here Friday, Saturday, Sunday as much as I can. Should be all day Saturday and Sunday, just doing stuff around the property. And if you want to watch and smoke weed, and take pictures, that's cool too. If you want to come and camp and just party and hang out, that's usually welcome here most weekends. Anyway, but especially if you can help out, if you want to do that, send me an email, Adam at the Freedom Line right now, or if you're one of the people in the audience who's got my number, shoot me a text message. We're gonna have a fun weekend, or at least a very productive weekend. And like I said, if you just want to watch me work and hang out and cheer me on and smoke no, you bring your own weed for that shit. But if you want to come and hang out, you're all welcome to. But yes, we have fun projects here that I'm going to be working on this weekend. I've got fun projects, interesting projects, challenging projects. We've even got some manual labor projects if you're interested. By the way, Jim, I don't know if you know how much of a fan I am of electric chainsaws. Like, I love that we are on, like, that you can have an electric chainsaw, not with a battery, but plugged in. Because when this house got delivered, I drove the route with the delivery guys with my pickup with a generator and the electric chainsaw. I would still, like, compared to an internal combustion chainsaw, like, I gotta get this rant out, man. Jim, you've worked an internal combustion chainsaw before, right?
Yeah.
You have to distinguish them now. Like, but a standard chainsaw, no longer standard. You have to say gas or electric, right? That's really cool that we've even come to this point. But when you're running a gas chainsaw, it's a lot of work to manage the motor, and it's a lot of effort to carry around this massively vibrating thing. Like a lot of, like, when you do it now with the electric, it's still spinning and vibrating when you're cutting, but you pull it up and you let go of the trigger and it stops, and I can run it off the solar power system here. So the amount of time that you get productive with the chainsaw goes way up. Even if you have a generator or solar, if your generator is reliable, because gas engines and chainsaws, two-stroke, are simpler and much more finicky. You got to deal with the choke and the fuel and manage the bar and chain oil. Electric, plug it in, bar and chain oil, and go. And this is not a paid product endorsement, and I haven't done the market research enough to legitimately call myself a fan of electric chainsaws. I just like what I'm capable of with this one here. But I had a 14-inch. I kind of wore it out, but the housing, like, it was defective with the plastic. It was kind of cheap, and it moved the barn. But I was able to take it to Home Depot, full store credit. And I was like, I'm just going to go buy another one. Do you want to give me an even exchange? I don't care. $60 a chainsaw. That's a disposable chainsaw, right? Like, what are you going to get to fix that? No. I mean, compared to the labor and the effort that you put into, like, getting a chainsaw to a work site where you're using it, $60 for a chainsaw. I have 2 or 3, throw them out if they stop working, right? But I went and I checked. So that was a 14-incher. They have an 18-inch Homelight electric chainsaw now. So that's my new toy I'll be playing with a little bit this weekend. And I guess if someone else wants to come out and use my new $80 electric chainsaw and play with it here, we do have reasonable, responsible safety standards for any kind of work like that out here. But there's always plenty of work to do with the chainsaw. And man, to be able to just, on the solar power system, to be able to walk, like, I got 10 acres. If I could run extension cords to the whole thing, and I really need to trim all the trees on the property, collect all the dead wood and firewood. But I want a gas powered wood chipper. Someone wants to get me something late for my birthday. I want a gas powered wood chipper. I have this really dinky electric one, which is so painfully slow. It's not worth it. Anyway, that's my pitch for coming out and hanging out here this weekend. And any dumb comment, we got some troll comments inspired by that whole electric chainsaw. You're a pussy for using electric chainsaws, right?
Yeah, he says just use the Viking battle axe.
Okay.
Go out there real hardcore with it.
No.
Really one with your, you got to fashion your own battle axe handle too out of the wood first before you start cutting.
Well, I am a bit of a fan of some of the primitive technology type YouTube channels. There's like a couple dozen of them now, I think. At least a handful. I used to watch a lot of these when I was out here doing that sort of more brainstorming, homesteading research. Hey, Rob B is back. Until the cord gets cut. Yeah, there have been a couple times I've been like, wait, oh shit, no, but I never have, and I've used the electric. It's still way easier to be aware of a cord than a gas engine in your hands. And it's not nearly as safe. You let go of the trigger on an electric, and it's done. Sometimes on a gas, it keeps spinning, it keeps turning the chain. If you got that blade resting against your leg, I mean that's the horror situation with a gas chainsaw that goes away with an electric, right? Is that it might keep you might that you might let go of the trigger on the chainsaw or the throttle, and it's against an arm or a leg or a finger, and the internal combustion engine is still going, and even though it's not spinning the chain at full speed, it's cutting through your flesh. Whereas, like, I nicked my finger the other day. It was because I was being dumb and sloppy with the electric, and this is the worst that happened. I've never cut a power cord. All right, we got a super chat turbine guy. Well, get you a micro turbine to go with that solar. Now, yeah. Well, so that's like, so turbine guy here is obviously an advocate of that. Hey, and if you want to call in, today might be the day, since we don't have Walter. We still are going to have time to get through the rest of our news in today's show. Turbine guy wanted to call in. I don't know how he wants to be publicly presented. We were texting, planning on having him call in tomorrow. But the thing with wind here, we do have a very consistently windy area. What I have been told is that because the sun is so consistent here, rather than buy a turbine and have an extra input to your system, the money is better spent on extra battery capacity that's not only helpful year round, but then on the few days that you have, or the few times a year that you have consistent overcast days, you have that battery capacity to last you through those times. So I'm about to set up the solar system on this house, and maybe turbine guy is going to call in right now and convince me that it's worth adding a turbine to the system too, because I don't mind, slap it onto the back of the house. It's going to get, great clearance, plenty of wind there. But what I've been told is that when you get to that, and it's a marginal. I'm like talking myself into it. I want a turbine just because it's cool. If someone wanted to give me a wind turbine, we slap it onto the back of the house there, and all I got to do is run 2 cords in, and they just run into my charge controller through, right next to my solar wires. Yeah, shit, let's do it. That sounds like fun. I'll put in a wind turbine here. So let's get that link in the comments, and we'll see. Maybe we'll take some callers today, since Walter Block is going to cut into our caller time tomorrow. There it is. You can call in to today's show or watch from backstage now. Specifically looking for Turbine Guy if he wants to call in. Again, best troll comments, but hey, maybe a best call could win membership in the Producers Club today. Jim, I'm going to jump into this econ block here, catching up on Bitcoin and some of the implications, unless you have any other comments you want to share first.
Matt Baxley said that's what the chain break is for, so you don't cut yourself, just so you know. Learn where that thing is. And Brian Johnson says when they hit the ground, they all dull the same.
Hold on. I know what a chain break is. I know how that works. The thing is, I'm holding a stick with one hand and holding the chainsaw with the other hand, cutting it. That's the kind of stupid shit I'm able to get away with electric chainsaws. And I'm not joking. I will pick up, like, I'll cut a branch off a tree and then pick it up to shave, the little side branches off it, so I can take the base couple pieces as firewood sticks. And this was the result of me having my hand too close and having a dried old piece of wood and trying to do that and it kicking up into my hand. And I'm not going to stop doing stupid shit like that. I'm just going to wear leather gloves like I normally would. This only happened because I had just I was being lazy with my gloves, and I grabbed, those chintzy nitrile. It's this thin fabric with nitrile coated palms.
Well, see if you can get somebody to take the bigger logs and toss them up, and then you go to where you can be like and shave the outsides while it's in the air, and then they land separate. That's when you really got it down.
I don't think chainsaws work like that yet. Lightsabers. If I had a lightsaber instead of a chainsaw, then we would do that. But until, see, you're worried about like a chain, like hitting yourself with it. What if you had a lightsaber and you're just like twirling your lightsaber in your fingers? You go whoops, and then decapitate yourself. Like that's.
Don't twirl a lightsaber.
What's that?
Don't twirl a lightsaber.
Yeah. Don't pick your teeth with your lightsaber. I hope there's some kind of safety on those.
The first lightsaber ever sold is going to have a disclaimer on it that says this is not a toothpick.
Wait, no, hold on. There's a Family Guy episode, because Family Guy has all these brilliant little side jokes, movie references. And I think one of them, it's like Luke Skywalker is standing there with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they're trying to give someone LASIK surgery. And he says, "No, Luke, use the Force." And Luke goes and controls his, and then they go, "Ah!" and accidentally like stabs the guy through the head or something. Do you remember that?
No, I don't think so.
CJ's got to be able to find that. CJ will have that clip by the time we're done with this econ block, if we ever get to it, shall we?
I just wanted to point out, she's laughing at me now, but Moose Girl 08 said that she's not camera ready. She doesn't want to be on camera. And I wanted to bring that comment up to point out that you can easily just go like that. And then look, yeah. I'm an audio caller. I don't, there's a button.
Cover up your camera with something fun. Throw a color, be a color, Or
this is actually CJ's symbol, the internet warlord.
You could just put something right up in front of your camera and talk from behind it, and you could appear on my show as a can of asparagus spears.
What were you looking for, Adam? I missed that.
There's a Family Guy scene where Luke Skywalker is trying to give someone LASIK or some kind of surgery with Obi-Wan Kenobi looking over him, and Luke is sort of doing it the old-fashioned way, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "No, Luke, use the Force." And then he accidentally kills the guy with his lightsaber.
To watch no more.
Stewie, my glasses! I can't do anything without my glasses. Why won't you let me get laser surgery? Because I just don't think it's safe.
Okay, I just need to make a quick incision here and we should be all done, Mrs. Wilson.
Luke, use the Force.
Really? Because I was just going to
use the Force.
Okay.
That one. Oh, all right. Morbid family. It's okay to laugh at morbid shit when it's in cartoon form from Family Guy, right? All right, let's get into this econ block. Hopefully we'll have caller and some more troll comments when we get back. CNBC has this headline: Bitcoin surpasses $50,000 for first time as major companies jump into crypto. Bitcoin surged to an all-time high of more than $50,000 on Tuesday. Large firms like Tesla, MasterCard, and BNY Mellon have shown support for cryptocurrencies. Many crypto investors believe the current bull run is different to a late 2017 bubble. So there's definitely a bubble effect here. And I would never say that there's a bad time to buy crypto, but there are better times and there are worse times, obviously. And I do think there is going to be a significant dip like this. But what is the difference between the 2017 bull run and this one? Not only is it bigger, coming later in the rise of Bitcoin, but it's also got way more institutional backing behind it. When Bitcoin grew in 2017, it was a phenomena of mostly individual investors still. Now it's a phenomena of individual investors driving a bull run with a foundation of the institutional investment. So it's almost like there's a floor to it. Whereas in prior spikes, and this is not true in 2017 because there was already significant institutional investment at that point. But I mean, you look at the chart of Bitcoin prices over time, there have been a series of spikes. And prior to the recent one, there have always been less institutions as a floor to that. Now, it's not an absolute floor. We're not talking about a commodity. We're talking about a cryptocurrency, which hypothetically could flip at any time. We could go from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin SV to Dogecoin to Ethereum as the dominant cryptocurrency like that. So when I see this bull run on Bitcoin, I am excited for Bitcoin, but I'm also excited for the potential of crypto as a whole. What this represents is a demand for an alternative currency and people willing to invest in it to the point that it's driven the price up to over $50,000. So congratulations to everybody who listened to my advice 10 years ago. I wish I was one of them. Hypebeast.com is this headline. Elon Musk also Dogecoin holders to sell most of their coins. Quote, I will literally pay actual money if they just void their accounts. Now, there's some more to this. Obviously, there's a lot of manipulation, but this is one of the weaknesses of cryptocurrency in its adolescence. I think it's fair to say in its adolescence at this point, growing into an adult, going from an infancy of uncertainty, of lacking larger either institutional backing through crypto trading platforms and exchanges, but now to establishing becoming a dominant currency, maturing through the institutional investment that gives it that stability. Now, I hate to say that that's necessary because it's not in the long run, but it kind of is now. And with the GameStop and r/Wall Street Bets, with its sort of crowdsourced activist investing, you would think that we have the individual purchasing power as investors, as people just buying cryptocurrency, choosing what money to use, that we would be able to sway the economy just by our, like if everybody started using crypto, that, I mean, obviously then there'd be nobody using the dollar. But if they had to use both, and you didn't have that institutional investment, you didn't have that shift in the existing economic centers of power, it might be a much slower process, and it would be prone to a lot more destabilizing forces. And the fact that cryptocurrency prices are being determined not by their functionality, not by their inherent value, but by Elon Musk and how cute their mascot is with Dogecoin, I do have a problem with that. I mean, it's not a good thing for the crypto market as a whole, but I do think it is one that we are growing out of. And with this spike, and I'm not like Elon Musk getting on board. Is he an opportunist or is he an ideologue? And, of course it can be both. He's clearly engaging in some kind of crypto market manipulation. And I don't mean that necessarily in a nefarious way, but when I promote Bitcoin, I'm trying to manipulate the market for currency away from US dollars and towards free market, peaceful, consensual money as opposed to non-consensual money through government fiat. And in that sense, there could be some nefarious manipulation, specifically on Elon Musk's part, when he says sell Doge or buy this coin or that coin. And is he profiting as he grows the community? Sure, why not? It can be both. Bitcoin.com has this headline: U.S. government won't allow corporates to keep replacing dollars with Bitcoin, warns investment advisor. And this is really important to understanding some of the immediate institutional limits when it comes to crypto. And this is the U.S. government is going to step in, not, hey, this is not practical. It's a very important distinction. Dan Nathan offered his view on the future of Bitcoin in an interview with CNBC last week. His comments follow the news of Elon Musk's Tesla investing $1.5 billion in Bitcoin and planning to allow the crypto as a form of payment for its products in the near future. So Dan Nathan is the founder of Risk Reversal Advisors, and saying that the U.S. government will not keep allowing, notice that wording, allowing corporations like Elon Musk's Tesla to replace dollars with Bitcoin. Quote, they won't let the dollar fall away from being the reserve currency for the world, which could happen if corporations keep replacing dollars in their balance sheets with Bitcoins. And one of the really exciting things about following this is that at any point, we could be on the verge of a tipping point with crypto. We could be that one killer app away that we have the technology. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the crypto space working on this already. And if you have skills relevant, I encourage you to get involved, get into this. If you don't know, I can put you in touch with Paul, but if you have the skills, you don't need me. But they're working on the killer app for crypto. So we don't have it yet. And the killer app needs to have the sort of banking services institution behind it. It needs to have a customer service backing. For crypto to displace fiat currency, one of the immediate challenges, I don't want to say this is a necessary prerequisite necessarily, but I have a banking app, right? Like I hate to admit it, because I wish I could be crypto only, but I have enough. I need to keep one foot in the other. I don't need to, but I choose to keep one foot in the dollar system. And so I have a bank account with Navy Federal. And they have an app. I have an app on my phone, and it allows me to do all these things. But also, there's a phone number I can call. If something goes wrong, if some of my money is missing, at least I can complain about it. Whereas right now, with crypto, you're kind of on your own, and there's some liability to that. But once we get to that point of that killer app with the institutional backing that's as practical as using the US dollar is, it could be overnight. Maybe not literally overnight, but there could be remember that week where the dollar died? Maybe we can't pinpoint a moment, but it could be that fast. And the rest of the world and all the financial institutions have to scramble to keep up. And the ones that have done this, and this is the, let's not overestimate the capabilities of our rulers. Enough of the super class are going to be inclined to think, if they don't already, that this is the future and they better get on board. Now, they don't want to get on board so fast that they destroy their current sources of wealth. But at some point, people in the super class whose wealth is based on the US dollar and institutions built around it are going to have to go, shit, I got to get out of this one way or another. I could transition, I could partially transition, I could get ahead of it, but then I'm accelerating that. Is that bad for my overall or my family or my club of billionaires net worth? Maybe. Maybe we don't want to put that much upheaval in the system that's taking care of us for so well for so many years. But then at very least, a lot of them, and super rich people already do this. I mean, how much do they, depend on dollars in bank accounts? Some of them have most of their assets in gold or in real estate or another physical property or just stashes of wealth that are sort of immune to that kind of manipulation. The sort of wealth hoarding in diversification means that you don't have to, have all of your money in dollars in bank accounts, but at some point there are going to be enough people in the super class or enough people with really big bank accounts who go, I think this crypto thing is here to stay. I want to invest. And already there are a lot of people who will manage those investments for you. There are a lot of professional services that will handle your crypto and make sure that for the super rich, that killer app doesn't exist. But you can hire somebody. I mean, if you're talking about getting into crypto in the hundreds of thousands, even millions or billions, like billions. I'm not exaggerating. Elon Musk with Tesla just put 1.5 billion into Bitcoin. And when you do it that way, you don't spend $1.5 billion on crypto and then have it sitting on a wallet on your phone. No. Elon Musk has a team of people just watching that 1.5 billion in Bitcoin, and ensuring its safety and security. And sometimes that might mean diversification of where and how it's being held, even. So there's a lot more to it than that. But at some point, you're going to see a tipping point come with crypto, and it really could be at any moment now. Very exciting time to be alive and to care about these things. Bloomberg has this headline from Yahoo News: "The world will pay more for meat as food inflation deepens." And remember, inflation originally was intended to refer to the concept of inflating the monetary supply, and then was deliberately mispresented as price inflation. And the inflation of prices is not the thing that comes naturally. It's the product of the artificial inflation of the monetary supply through fiat currency, through central banks. So when they create more money and it is in line with the expansion of goods and services available on the market, you can have price stability, but prices should be falling. And this is a big part of what they're robbing from us. Now, of course, we got Walmart and Target and Kmart and grocery store. Like, it's pretty cheap. A lot of this stuff is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. But it should be a lot cheaper even than that relative to the value of your labor. And this is what's being stolen from us: is that we know an hour of human labor can produce a certain amount of productive output, goods and services that are consumable, right? That people want to pay for. And what government is doing is, instead of saying that, hey, over time, as humans get more productive and more capable and make more shit per hour because of technology and improved concepts of production and better techniques and so on and so forth, instead we're gonna keep it the same, and you won't notice because you're a fucking animal. That's how they think of you, right? And it's kind of true in the sense that if quality of life just stays the same for us, or if my kids have it a little bit better than me, I'll be happy. If you have that kind of social progress, you can still rip off all of that excess goods and services and production, and take it for the super class, for the super rich, getting richer at the expense of the rest of us. And that's really, again, what's being robbed from us over the long term by government is not just what's being robbed from us in the moment, but that potential of growth, of society improving. And that's something that's been skimmed off the top for so long. And so now we're at this point where food inflation, like price inflation of food, is becoming such a bad thing under this crisis that it's becoming a unique phenomenon as opposed to this longer term managed process of managing the monetary supply, consumer prices, price inflation, purchasing power of the dollar, the employment market, the relation. You see how they manage all of these things as a composite system, and hey, the result is the purpose of government is served. The super rich get richer at the expense of the rest of us. Oh yeah, so I was covering the story. The world will pay more for meat as food inflation deepens. There are signs that the food inflation that's gripped the world over the past year, raising prices of everything from shredded cheese to peanut butter, is about to get worse. The COVID-19 pandemic upended food supply chains, paralyzing shipping, sickening workers that keep the world fed, and ultimately raising consumer grocery costs around the globe last year. Now, farmers, especially ones raising cattle, hogs, and poultry, are getting squeezed by the highest corn and soybean prices in 7 years. It's lifted the costs of feeding their herds by 30% or more to stay profitable. Producers, including Tyson Foods Inc., are increasing prices, which will ripple through supply chains and show up in the coming months as higher price tags for beef, pork, and chicken around the world. Now, this is not a good thing in and of itself. I would never suggest that government manipulation through coercion of the global food supply, even if it's a sort of secondary effect of what they're doing with the financial manipulations around COVID, I would never say that's a good thing. But there are some silver linings here. Aside from this exposing the vulnerabilities and the corruption of our current system, it's also creating a new set of incentives for innovation and leapfrogging the current situation, rendering all of this obsolete. So, in a very simplistic explanation as it relates to this story, you could say the thinking might go like this. Oh, okay. Well, because of COVID, because governments are making it a lot harder for people to be productive, and it's affecting grain markets and delivery, and grain prices are going up, and all these other prices are going up. And so it's going to be really expensive to make meat the old-fashioned way. Let's 3D print it instead. Let's grow it in a lab. And I'm not saying that that's happening. That's already happening. And this is simply a matter of efficiency. Again, I'm not saying I'm against, again, and I say this as someone who's veganish, consumer choice vegan, I would call myself. Not that means I'm the coolest kind of I'm so cool I don't even have to get into it any more than that, right? But the I will tell you all about it if you want. But no, that the just from a matter of efficiency, and I'll eat meat if it doesn't involve taking a life unethically. So if we can grow meat in a lab, I'm all for eating meat. Fuck yeah, give me the bacon. I'll get back into I'll eat 2 pounds of bacon every day like I used to. There were days. Well, no, it was the like the 22-ounce Black Forest bacon from Whole Foods. That was my favorite. You get the whole pack and just lay it out on a pan in your oven, and then I just sit there and eat a whole goddamn plate of bacon. Yeah, let's get back to that, but do it in a humane, sustainable way. And we might be getting to that pretty soon here. That technology is already here and on the horizon for widespread implementation. In terms of burgers, I mean, I love going to Burger King because they have the Impossible Whopper, and that's a veggie patty that tastes better than meat patties. Like we're already at that point for I think for ground meat, for ground beef, and for burgers, that vegetable substitutes are better tasting and healthier. But pretty soon, we're going to have substitutes for everything, and that might not be even not meat. It might be real meat, just not sourced from slaughter. So finally, wrapping up our econ block here, the new debt prisons. While controversial calls to defund the police have grabbed headlines, we urgently need to examine how we fund the police today. And this is from dnyuz.com. I want to get the attribution right. This is from the New York Times originally. Not that they need the credit. But here, this is important as an examination of the corrupt nature, fundamentally corrupt, really, of our current legal system. Can't call it a justice system. So, the increasing use of excessive fees, fines, and surcharges to fund parts of our criminal justice system is creating punitive debt traps for millions of low-income Americans leaving prison. Many find themselves in an economic prison, prevented from paying down their debts by the debts themselves. Others are so entrapped that they are actually reincarcerated for unpaid debt. Either way, they are denied the dignity of a real second chance and a fresh start to pursue one's purpose and to contribute to family, community, and country. Now, some libertarians will, in a abstract hypothetical, promote debtors' prisons as a legitimate economic means of debt enforcement, and it could be if done in a voluntary contractual means. So it really wouldn't be a prison so much as a debt repayment facility. If you said, I will voluntarily check into a place where I can work and live, I can work as effectively as possible and live as cheaply as possible, and it'd be kind of it wouldn't really be a prison. Say like it's a debtors club or something. And so that if you were signed anyway, there are a lot of ways you can go at this that's more humane. But what we're talking about here is fundamentally illegitimate because these are debtors' prisons for people for not paying the government fines. And when they say when this article says that they are prevented from paying down their debts by the debts themselves, imagine you get a felony. I'm a felon for a nonviolent crime, for a victimless crime. And there are a lot of Americans in that category. But even for people with active misdemeanor charges or with fines that they can't pay, that can be used and leveraged against them in a lot of other legal ways and prevented and limit employment opportunities. But being a felon's the big one. Pretty much every corporate job application you will ever fill out will have a box to check, that I've been convicted of a felony or not. And you can't get a decent job then and pay off your debts because of that thing which created the debts in the first place, whether or not you have a victim. So this is something that is getting more attention, and I think is something I would hope we can have some kind of progress with under the Biden administration. And there are plenty of things to condemn him for. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to be as fair with Biden as I was with Trump. Praise when he deserves it, and condemnation the rest of the time. The praise is very, very rare. But in terms of what silver linings, what concessions might the state be led to make under the Biden administration? Two big ones I'm looking forward to. One, police reform and accountability. Although, from not because of Biden himself, obviously, but the institutional momentum that the shift to the Democratic Party represents right now. And the other one is an opening up of immigration. I believe in freedom of movement, limited only by the legitimate borders of private property, not government borders. And of course, Biden's not doing this. The Democrats aren't doing this in any kind of principled, consistent way. But anything that allows for more freedom of movement, even in the consequentialist analysis, I'm going to celebrate as good news. All right, so 15 minutes to go on the show. Let's get Common Jim Freedom back up on here. See, do we have any callers? I don't see anything in the chat. Maybe the
Nobody
turbine
called.
guy wants to also be camera presentable tomorrow.
That's possible, I guess. I don't know. Moose Girl, I could have swore up there somewhere said, yeah, okay, she could do audio only, but then she never clicked the link, or she couldn't figure it out, or I don't know.
Well, let's do a couple comments and then see how many more of the stories I can get through, shall we?
Okay, Turbine Guy points out, now that we're talking about him, he said, I think Kmart died, buddy. I think you listed Kmart in your, you were like Walmart, Target, Kmart. I don't know. I can't remember, but I think he thought you did.
Yeah, as I just big box, cheap consumer good. Is Kmart done? Is it really?
I haven't seen one in a good long time. I thought they went under.
Yeah,
they went from Kmart to Big K, and then they went under. I thought. I remember when they switched to Big K for like a little while.
Okay, so I'm looking up Kmart Wikipedia. Kmart Corporation, doing business as Kmart and stylized as Kmart, all lowercase, is an American big box department store chain headquartered in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, U.S. The company was incorporated in 1999 as the S.S. Kresge Corporation and renamed Kmart Corporation in 1977. First store with the Kmart name opened in 1962. At its peak in 1994, Kmart operated 2,486 stores globally, including 2,323 discount stores and Super Kmart Center locations in the U.S. From 2005 through 19, Kmart was a subsidiary of Sears Holding Corporation, is now a subsidiary of Transform SR Brands LLC. So then there's a section here, remaining stores. So the section is before that, 2019 to present, new management under Transform Holdco and further decline. The sale of 202 Kmart stores to Transform Holdco was finalized in February 2019, with the remaining Kmart locations liquidated to partially pay off Sears Holdings creditors. Interesting. But let's see, remaining stores. With the rapid store closures in 2019 and 2020 and shutdowns during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, the number of remaining stores is uncertain. As of May 9, 2020, Forbes, oh shit, I gotta plug my phone in here before it dies. Forbes reported 34 Kmart stores open in the continental U.S. with others in Puerto Rico. So 34 stores left as of May last year. Let's see.
I mean,
this is interesting. Okay, hold on. One last thing here. In January 2021, Forbes reported they are still unable to get an accurate count of the number of operational stores, with numbers ranging between 48 and 32. At the beginning of January, an expert in retail bankruptcies at DebtWire calls the store closings a slow motion liquidation. Right. All right. So that's what they're doing.
Slow motion liquidation.
Yeah.
The way that goes down. Not
all right. Still looking for troll what's that?
They're not surprising at all, since I haven't seen them around.
All right. Still looking.
Rob B says, he was talking about cryptocurrency when you were doing that part of that block. He says, on and off ramps make it centralized until you can exchange for milk at store without a third party. None of it is decentralized. Is
okay, correct? I'm not sure everything. Sorry, Jim.
Go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure everything he means exactly there, but that actually gives me a really interesting sort of thought exercise idea to think. what would the full decentralization of retail look like? And I think so. You've heard my cannabis fantasy, right? That in the future you'll have an app on your phone that has all the dispensaries or grow ops in the area with drone flight times to your location. You pull up the menu, you pay in crypto, and a drone flies and drops out of the sky onto your phone. Like it'll go to your area by GPS, then zoom in on your phone and you can hold your phone like this, and it'll drop whatever you ordered into your hand, right? So could we would we ever get to something as direct production to retail with full decentralization if we have crypto and we have and drone delivery? Yes and no. I think that model might work for cannabis, but for large manufactured produced goods, the Amazon warehouse or Walmart kind of model might be necessary, or not necessary, but might be uh, economically valuable as a storage and distribution function for most producers who don't want to do that and would rather sell to big box online retailer in order to stabilize their production, to have a longer term contract to absorb the market demand fluctuations among a lot of retail prices. So I don't think that kind of full decentralization, like you're not going to get on the catalog of everything on the internet and go, oh, I want this laptop. Well, it's being made in China. Let me send Bitcoin to the manufacturer in China, and they're going to spit out a laptop and then drone deliver it directly to me. I think everything in that manufactured realm will have an evolved means of central distribution, but that full decentralized retail model will apply for a lot of custom stuff. Will apply for food, for cannabis, other drugs, art, crafts, small production things that people do from home. And I think you're going to see a flourishing of that. And I think, for example, one of the businesses that we're considering here is my wife doing welding, and inspired by my father's tutelage at Thanksgiving last year, doing stuff like clever homesteading, home fixtures, things with horseshoes, stuff like that. That it's you could custom order, right? Anything that's custom ordered is going to be a lot more direct, but there's still going to be a role for centralization in retail to provide those greater warehousing and buffering services. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I suppose I'm a little confused, I suppose, because I kind of thought he was talking about how you basically, if I'm going to go buy it from somewhere, the vast majority of places that I'm going to purchase from aren't taking the actual cryptocurrency. I have to use a third party to turn that crypto into dollars to be able to buy that milk with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's saying
No,
until we get to a point where we can go to the store and just buy with Bitcoin instead of turning it into dollars to buy it.
Well, there was one major turning point in this. Well, okay, no, so there. I want to say one of the first major turning points was Overstock deciding to accept Bitcoin for payment. Excuse me, but there's more to it than that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but to be or a dominant currency in an economy, you have to have stability. And right now, while the dollar is in decline, it's a pretty steady decline. Your dollar is not going to flip overnight, and that everybody in the United States is going to start using like British pounds, right? That's just there's that inherent stability to it, and any competing currency has to grow into that. Even gold and silver in today's world are less stable than the dollar, and generally they're going up. But you look at the 10-year charts for gold and silver, you'll see significant spikes and dips that are far more significant than the fluctuations in the value of the US dollar. So while we might soon get to a point of competing currencies or more crypto being taken in the way that Rob is describing, where there's an on-ramp, off-ramp, but it's a different currency that's the main road that determines the prices. That's going to be a gateway that's going to lead crypto to a point of greater stabilization that would allow things to be negotiated in crypto, prices to be listed in crypto. But as a retailer, at some point, the fact that you have a deflationary currency as opposed to an inflationary currency is also going to be appealing. Because if you list your prices right now, if you say my widget is $100, and the value of those dollars go down, well then, and you sell it in a month, and maybe there's been 1% inflation over that month. Now, that you're only getting the purchasing value of what a month ago was $99. Whereas with crypto, it's the other way around. So there's an incentive once crypto gets to that point of stability for people to list prices in crypto. But right now the fluctuations are too big. If I listed, so one Bitcoin is exactly $50,000, right? And I wanted to sell my land here for $50,000, and I said, or one Bitcoin. And I'm an evangelist. I'm a huge supporter of crypto. I want to do as much as I can. I might even advertise and say I'll accept one crypto or one Bitcoin, assuming it doesn't dip below $48,000 before the point of sale. Like, right, I have to say that because we're in a bubble, and the fluctuations are so significant that it has to affect my decision about how to list this. I've seen people.
We didn't even get to guess what Adam was going to say. He just, see ya. I don't know. His battery died is what I'm guessing. That's my guess. He said he had to plug in before his battery died. No, he's coming back. Rest in peace, Adam.
What am I doing?
I know. I'm trying to do it.
I don't know.
He's back.
No, is he? Yep, there he is.
Something's wrong.
There he is. You're there. Can you hear us?
I can sort of hear you. It's like weird I don't know if this is a connection or a StreamYard thing, but StreamYard just never happened.
I don't know if you're gonna make it through another news block like that.
Hold on, this is still like really bad.
Let
me refresh.
The man
finally got you. Adam versus the man. The man finally caught up.
And there he goes.
Oh, there he goes. See you later, fearless leader. Restarting.
All these screens make me look way more white than I actually am. You know that, Jim?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
See, look.
Turning him down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's not Casper from that movie.
No.
Powder.
Well,
welcome back.
Yeah, this is still a weird connection. Let me try something else.
Yeah, you're kind of garbly on my end.
He should just reconnect altogether. While we do this, we only got a few minutes left, so I'll go ahead and do exit promos while he's waiting. I can't really call a winner. Do you know? Can you think of a winner for the contest there, CJ?
No,
the troll comment. I can't think of one. Nobody really trolled.
Nobody woke me up today with a comment.
Nope. So
Adam,
this is so weird. I'm still getting a crazy funky connection. I'll be back in a minute to close out. You guys do the promos if you can hear me.
All right, Jim. Tell them what they could have won if they were better.
Tell them what they could have won. Okay. Well, had anyone trolled enough to shock all of our minds, then we would have given you a Producers Club membership. Producers Club is a private Telegram chat for Adam versus the Man, as opposed to the public Telegram chat, which you can find at t.me/Adam versus the Man. That's the public channel that everyone is welcome to. It's a cool group, cool conversation, all fans of Adam versus the Man. Winning access into the winning the contest gets you access into the private Telegram group. But if you don't feel like winning, or you don't want to wait till tomorrow to try again, you can go to adamversustheman.com and just click on the Patreon link itself and check out the different levels to support the show. $1, $5, $10, or even $50 a month are the different levels of support. $10 a month is what gets you access directly into that Producers Club. So as soon as you sign up for that, you get access into the private Telegram chat with Adam and CJ and myself and everybody else on the team. So check that out. After that, go to back to the website, adamversusman.com. Check out the store. Get yourself some flip-flops if you're not in one of the areas that's frozen over right now. If you are, then get yourself some jackets, some windbreakers, layer up with a bunch of sweatshirts and windbreakers, and fill yourself up with the Freedom logo because it's awesome and you know it, and that's why you're here. So check that out. Always remember, Producers Club members and better patrons get 15% off of all merchandise and free shipping. So that's awesome. After that, go back to adamversusman.com. Check out our affiliate program with cigarfederation.com. If you like cigars, this is a great option for you. They got a ton of exotically flavored cigars to check out, and you can use promo code ADAM10, that's Adam10, to get 10% off of your entire order there. So definitely check that out. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, check out the tag at the Garden of Freedom to check out everything that Adam's been up to up there in Gardenia. When it snows like crazy, he's got pictures of that. When his animals, like Marilyn, the top left one there is Marilyn catching a live rabbit. Not a live rabbit. The rabbit ain't live no more. It was alive at one point, but you get the picture. You can check out everything that's going on with them and the animals up there, and it's pretty awesome. So give that a check. There you go.
All right. A few more headlines to skim through real quick before we close out with the good news in this day on this day in history. Beached whale, yeah, terrible news pun from thesun.com. Badly injured surfer rescued after riding help in sand before collapsing on remote New Zealand beach. Just a fun story of personal perseverance. A badly injured surfer was rescued today after riding help in the sand. The man was surfing by himself at Keri Keri Beach near Auckland when he was swept into rocks by crashing waves. He lost his board and scrambled ashore after suffering serious injuries in the water. The surfer became lost while trying to walk through thick bush. He spent 2 hours trying to escape the beach before giving up and writing a message in the sand. Left with no other option, he scrawled the word help on the beach and collapsed. Luckily, a woman walking on a track spotted the surfer writing his message of desperation. See, you kind of wish in this story that, like, oh yeah, we had some, you know how we give the government billions and billions of dollars and they have all those spy satellites up in the sky. Wouldn't it be nice if someone ever wrote a giant message calling for, I mean, you would think that that's how this happened, right? If you just saw the headline. But no, it was a woman walking, spotted him, writing the message, and called the surf club, and lifeguards got there on a jet ski. But this is something now, like, I just think about as covering the story, that would be really cool if we actually had this as a safety service, right? How cool would it be if there were global satellites? And I hate to say, like, spying on the world, but do you have an expectation of privacy from above? Maybe not, right? And if it was done just for public safety, I don't think anybody could object to this application of the technology. And it sucks to suggest that it should be government doing it, but for now, they're the ones who control technology. You should be able to, anywhere on the earth, write the word help in 10-foot letters, and some computer looking through all of these satellites should be able to recognize it and ping you, and at least have someone go, hey, what's going on? Is there a human about to die on an island somewhere? Yeah. Let's do it, okay, team people. Let's make it happen. From marijuanamoment.net, GOP Iowa lawmaker files bill to allow psilocybin, MDMA, and LSD access for seriously ill patients. If you're sick, you can have the freedom to put what you want in your own body. If you're healthy, fuck you. No, obviously there is that subtext here, but this is progress, and this is really cool. So a Republican Iowa lawmaker saying that this is Republican Iowa lawmaker recently filed a bill that will allow seriously ill people to use psilocybin mushrooms, MDMA, LSD, DMT, or peyote as alternative treatments after they've exhausted traditional legal medicines. No shit. Yep, a humane politician. Quick fun update from our friend Milo Yiannopoulos and I don't have any relationship with Parler. I guess I was just cheerleading from a distance, but National File has this headline: breaking pro-free speech Parler bans Milo Yiannopoulos for offensive jokes. Parler's new community guidelines came into effect on Monday. Yeah. I guess you're going to have to bow to the censors eventually. Right-wing provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos has been banned from Parler for offensive jokes, despite the site claiming repeatedly to be pro-free speech. Yeah, hateful content. And it would be one thing. So Yiannopoulos, who is gay himself, here's what's actually in question, posted statuses such as, "Who wants to gay bash with me this weekend? I mean this with all the Christian charity and compassion in the world. Homosexuals should be hanged. Death penalty for illegal immigrants when? I don't get why we don't shoot on sight," among other edgy comments. Now, see, it would be one thing if they drew the line at fraud or immediate threats, but this is clearly not that. So fuck Parler, you're done. Now we have a link in here. We're going to have to come back to this when there's some updates, but WBUR.com on point. What India's farmer protests reveal about the world's largest democracy. There's a lot going on there. We are going to have to come back to that. And with that, we go to goodnewsnetwork.org for this day in history's good news. It was 15 years ago today, American speed skater Shawnee Davis became the first black athlete to win a gold medal in Winter Olympic history for an individual event, winning the men's 1,000 meter in Italy. Really cool moment in athletic history. On this day in 3102 BC, big difference, Hindus and Hare Krishnas commemorate the day Lord Krishna left his body. On this day in 1929, the first Academy Award winners were announced. Yeah, not quite a significant recent history. On this day in 1954, 67 years ago today, John Travolta was born. So happy 67th birthday. I don't know why that one's in there. On this day in 1965, Gambia became the 37th sovereign state in Africa and last of Britain's West African colonies to gain independence. On this day in 1972, California Supreme Court struck down the state's death penalty. That's very good news. On this day in 1977, the Space Shuttle Enterprise test vehicle went on its maiden flight, perched atop a Boeing 747. On this day in 1979, snow fell in the Sahara Desert for the only time in recorded history, with a snowstorm that lasted 30 minutes. 136 years ago, Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was first published in the United States. And 90 years ago today, Toni Morrison, the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, was born. And with that, there's a bunch of other stuff about Pink Floyd and celebrity news, and that's all we need to cover for today's good news in history. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. Please share the show, support us on Patreon, check out AdamVersusTheMan.com, and do all the things Jim and TJ told you to do earlier. And with that, mwah, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.